Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping right into a topic you've asked about. Semaglutide for weight loss.
That's right. We've gathered quite a bit of material from the science behind it to the benefits, the risks, practical use, and sort of the bigger picture of obesity management.
And our goal, as always, is to really distill this down for you. We want to pull out the key insights, the stuff that really matters, and make it, well, hopefully engaging too.
Definitely. So semaglutide, what is it? At its heart, it's what's called a GLP-1 receptor agonist, glucagon-like peptide 1.
Okay.
It started out as a treatment for type 2 diabetes, but then something interesting happened.
Yeah, this is the fascinating part, isn't it? This surprising discovery. Researchers using it for diabetes noticed patients were, well, losing quite a bit of weight.
Exactly. It wasn't just about blood sugar control anymore.
And that observation really shifted the focus, didn't it, toward its potential for weight management?
It did, and that led directly to the big clinical trials, the STEPPER program, semaglutide treatment effect in people with obesity.
Those trials were absolutely key. Pivotal, really.
Right. So, okay, let's dig into the science a bit. How does this actually work for weight loss?
First principles, I guess. Weight loss boils down to burning more calories than you eat, a calorie deficit.
Sounds simple, but our bodies have this complex web of hormones, metabolism, appetite signals. It's not always straightforward.
Not at all. Take insulin, for example. Everyone's heard of insulin.
Crucial for blood sugar.
Right. It helps cells use glucose for energy, but the excess glucose, that gets stored as fat. So if insulin levels are out of whack, it can actually make weight management harder and, raise diabetes risk long term.
And this is where GLP-1 fits in naturally. Our gut releases it when we eat.
Okay.
It does a few key things. It tells your brain you're full, so it helps control appetite.
That's important.
Very. It also signals the pancreas to release insulin when blood sugar is high, and it stops another hormone, glucagon, from raising blood sugar too much.
So it's like a natural regulator.
Precisely. But the catch is, natural GLP-1 gets broken down really quickly by the body. It doesn't hang around for long.
Ah, okay. So that's the problem semaglutide solves.
That's the key insight, yes. Semaglutide is designed to act like GLP-1. It hits the same receptors.
But it lasts longer?
Much longer. It's engineered to resist that fast breakdown. So you get that appetite control signal and the blood sugar regulation effects for a lot longer.
Which makes it easier to eat less and helps manage blood sugar more consistently.
Exactly. And that often leads to significant weight loss for people.
And you mentioned metabolism too. It's not just about feeling full.
Well, that's part of the ongoing research, but it seems like it might do more. By enhancing how insulin works and boosting GLP-1 activity overall, it could potentially nudge the metabolic rate up slightly.
Making you burn a few more calories even at rest.
Possibly, yeah. The primary driver seems to be appetite reduction, though.
And that feeling of fullness, that satiety, that must be huge for people who struggle with constant hunger or cravings.
It's often described as a game changer. Feeling satisfied with smaller portions makes sticking to that calorie deficit much more achievable. It's less about pure willpower.
Right. The underlying biology is actually helping you out.
Yeah. Imagine not having those intense cravings driving you all the time. It gives you back a sense of control.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's talk evidence of the STEP trials you mentioned earlier.
Right, the semaglutide treatment effect in people with obesity program.
Yeah.
A series of big, well-designed studies.
And STEP 1, that was the first major one looking purely at obesity, right? What did it find?
It was pretty striking. They took over 1,900 adults, BMI 30 or higher, gave them either semaglutide or a placebo, plus lifestyle support for both groups.
Okay.
Over 68 weeks, the semaglutide group lost, on average, almost 15% of their body weight.
Wow, 15%. And the placebo group?
They lost about 2.4%.
So a massive difference. That really shows the drug's effect beyond just lifestyle advice.
Absolutely. It highlighted the biological impact. And then step 2 looked at people who also had type 2 diabetes.
Similar results.
Very promising results there, too, yeah. Comparable weight loss. Step 3 combined semaglutide with intensive behavioral therapy.
Looking at the synergy, maybe?
Kind of, yeah. And step 4 was interesting, the withdrawal study.
Ah, what happens when you stop taking it?
Exactly. People who had lost weight on semaglutide either stayed on it or switched to placebo. Those who continued kept the weight off.
And those who stopped?
They tended to regain some of the weight. It really showed the medication plays an ongoing role for many.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a cure you stop once you lose the weight. It's more of a long-term management tool for some.
That seems to be the implication for many, yes.
Yeah.
And connecting this, there was that big study in the New England Journal of Medicine back in 2020.
Right, you mentioned that.
Similar findings, around 15% average weight loss over 68 weeks with semaglutide plus lifestyle changes in overweight or obese adults.
And there were other trials too. Sustain and Pioneer?
Yes. Those specifically looked at people with type 2 diabetes and also confirmed weight loss benefits.
So a pretty solid body of evidence building up.
Enough that in 2021, the FDA approved semaglutide specifically for chronic weight management in adults with obesity or overweight with a related health condition.
That was a big step, a landmark, really.
It was. And what's really interesting is this idea of dual benefits. We know it helps with weight.
Right. Reducing appetite, slowing digestion.
But it also seems to directly improve metabolic health.
Okay, let's define that. What does good metabolic health actually mean for someone day to day?
Essentially, it means your body's efficient, converting food to energy well, keeping blood sugar stable, having healthy blood pressure, healthy cholesterol, and lipid levels.
So consistent energy, no big sugar crashes. Your systems are running smoothly.
That's a good way to put it. And when those things are out of balance, that's when long-term problems can arise.
So how does semaglutide help with that metabolic side?
A key mechanism is improving insulin resistance. That's when your cells don't respond well to insulin.
Which makes blood sugar harder to control.
Exactly. Semaglutide helps reduce that resistance. That's a massive benefit, especially for preventing or managing type 2 diabetes.
And does this only happen if you lose a lot of weight?
Interestingly, no. Some research suggests positive metabolic effects can happen even without huge weight loss. It hints that semaglutide might be doing something directly to metabolic processes.
So it's not just a side effect of losing weight, the metabolic improvement.
It seems there might be more to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty significant.
Definitely. Okay, so we have weight loss, improved metabolic health. What else? You mentioned cardiovascular benefits and quality of life.
Right. First, the link between obesity and heart disease or stroke, it's well known, isn't it?
Absolutely. Extra weight strains the heart, affects blood pressure, cholesterol, increases risk.
And that New England Journal study we keep mentioning, it had a really important finding related to this.
What was that?
In type 2 diabetes, patients already at high risk for heart problems, semaglutide significantly lowered the risk of major events like heart attack or stroke.
Wow. That's huge. Not just weight loss, but actually reducing heart attacks and strokes.
It is a major finding. It suggests the benefits go way beyond the scale.
How does it do that? What are the mechanisms?
Well, it's likely a combination of things. Losing weight itself reduces strain on the heart. That's one factor.
Makes sense.
Then many people see improvements in blood pressure and cholesterol levels on semaglutide. Better blood sugar control definitely helps too.
Okay.
And there's also some emerging evidence about potential anti-inflammatory effects, which could play a role in protecting the cardiovascular system.
So multiple pathways leading to better heart health.
It seems so. And all this feeds into quality of life, doesn't it?
You'd think so. If your heart risk is lower, your blood sugar is better.
Exactly. Plus, think about increased energy, better mobility as weight comes off. Everyday activities become easier.
Yeah.
And then there's the mental well-being aspect. Improved self-esteem, better body image. Some studies even point to reduced depression and anxiety symptoms that can be linked to obesity.
It all connects. Feeling better physically often leads to feeling better mentally and emotionally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not all smooth sailing. We need to talk about the downsides, the side effects and risks.
Right, the practical realities. What should people expect?
Okay, the most common things people report are gastrointestinal issues. Nausea is the big one. Maybe around 40% of users experience it to some degree.
40%, okay. That's quite a few.
It is, though it's often mild and temporary. Diarrhea is also common, maybe 30%. Vomiting, constipation, abdominal pain are also reported, maybe in the 10-20% range.
And you said temporary, like when you start.
Usually, yes. Most common when first starting the medication or when increasing the dose. The body often adapts over time.
But still, dealing with nausea for the first few weeks could be tough for staying motivated.
It can be, which is why management strategies are important, but we should also mention other potential side effects.
Okay, what else?
Some people report fatigue or dizziness and reduced appetite, which is part of the mechanism, but needs managing.
And any serious risks, things that are less common but more concerning.
Yes, though they are rare. Things like pancreatitis, gallbladder issues, potential kidney problems, maybe changes in vision for those with existing diabetic retinopathy. and sometimes an increase in heart rate.
Okay, rare, but definitely things to be aware of and monitored by a doctor.
Absolutely. Close monitoring and reporting any unusual symptoms promptly is crucial.
What about low blood sugar hypoglycemia? Is that a risk?
Mainly if you already have diabetes and are taking other blood sugar lowering meds like insulin or sulfonylureas. For someone without diabetes taking it just for weight loss, the risk is much lower.
Got it. So how do people manage these side effects, especially the GI stuff?
The standard advice is start low and go slow. Begin with a low dose and increase it gradually as directed by the doctor. That gives the body time to adjust.
Okay, slow ramp up.
Yeah. And for the GI symptoms, sometimes taking it with food helps, or taking it at night. Staying well hydrated is important. Eating a balanced diet with enough fiber can help too.
And talking to your doctor is key.
Absolutely essential. Don't just suffer through it. Let your provider know so they can help manage it or adjust the plan if needed.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the psychological side. Weight loss isn't just physical, is it?
Not at all. Mindset is huge. It's really important to see semaglutide as a tool, not some kind of magic fix.
So you still need the motivation, the commitment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A positive but realistic outlook, understanding it aids your efforts with diet and exercise, that's crucial.
What about setbacks? Plateaus happen, right? Weight loss slows down sometimes.
Absolutely. It's almost inevitable in any long weight loss journey. Maybe the scale doesn't move for a week or two.
That can be really discouraging.
You can. But the key is not to see it as failure. Maintain that positive attitude. Keep taking the medication as prescribed. Maybe double check your food tracking, your activity levels, and lean on your support systems.
Support systems, yeah. How important are those?
Hugely important. Both professional support doctors, dietitians, maybe a therapist or trainer, and personal support from family and friends. They provide encouragement, accountability, practical help.
And what about body image and self-esteem? You touched on that earlier.
Yeah, it's complex. Struggling with weight often impacts how people feel about themselves. Losing weight with semaglutide can definitely help improve body image and self-esteem.
But
it's important not to tie your entire self-worth to the number on the scale. Focusing on overall health, capabilities, and intrinsic qualities is much healthier long-term. Sometimes addressing underlying issues with a therapist is helpful too.
a holistic approach, really. Okay, let's get practical. How do people actually use this medication? Administration, monitoring.
Okay, so it's typically a once-a-week injection. Subcutaneous, meaning just under the skin.
Like an insulin pen.
Very similar. It often comes in pre-filled pens, which are quite user-friendly. You can also get vials.
And where do you inject it?
Common spots are the abdomen, the thigh, or the upper arm. The key is to rotate the site each week. Don't inject in the exact same spot every time.
Got it. And storage. Disposal.
Usually needs refrigeration before first use, then follow specific instructions. Used needles need to go in a proper sharps container, not the regular trash.
What if you miss a dose?
The general rule is, if it's within 5 days of when you were supposed to take it as soon as you remember. If it's been more than 5 days, skip the missed dose and just take your next one on the regular schedule. Don't double up.
Okay. And monitoring progress, what should people track?
Weight, obviously. But also body measurements, waist, hips can show changes even if the scale isn't moving much.
Capturing fat loss better, maybe?
Exactly. Also keep track of health markers like blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, especially if those were issues. And notice improvements in fitness, energy levels, mood, the whole picture.
There are apps for that now, right?
Lots of digital tools can help track all this. But remember, it's usually gradual. Significant weight loss takes time. Manage expectations.
And crucially, it's not just the injection.
Absolutely not. It works best alongside lifestyle changes. A balanced diet, whole foods, limiting processed stuff, and excess sugar. Regular physical activity, finding something you enjoy and can stick with.
Sleep stress.
Yes. Prioritizing good sleep and finding healthy ways to manage stress are also really important parts of the puzzle. And regular medical checkups, of course.
So it enables the lifestyle changes but doesn't replace them.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, looking ahead now, what's next in this field? Semaglutide is here, but what else is coming?
Yeah, the future of GLP-1s.
Well, one name you hear a lot is tirzepatide.
Right, that's a dual agonist.
Yeah, it acts on both GLP-1 and another receptor called GIP. Early data, like from the SURPASS trials, suggests it might lead to even more weight loss than semaglutide.
Wow, similar side effects.
Seems like it, mostly the GI stuff again. Research is definitely ongoing there.
What other innovations are we seeing?
Well, oral semaglutide is already available for diabetes, and its use for weight loss is being explored more, which would be more convenient for some.
No injections.
Right. Also, combination therapies using GLP-1s with other types of weight loss drugs or interventions. Trying to figure out who responds best to these medications. Developing even newer versions with maybe fewer side effects or better effectiveness.
And longer-term studies are still needed, right?
Definitely. We need more data on very long-term effects, safety, especially cardiovascular outcomes over many years, and cost effectiveness is a big issue too.
Given the scale of the obesity crisis the WHO talks about, these drugs offer hope, but they aren't the whole answer.
Not by themselves, no. They need to be part of a bigger strategy that includes public health efforts, access to healthy food, safe places for activity, addressing social determinants of health.
So, cautious optimism about the future.
I'd say so. Optimism about the tools, but caution about needing long-term data and ensuring equitable access.
Okay, if someone listening wants to dig deeper, find reliable info, where should they go? It's easy to get lost online.
Very easy. Stick to trusted sources. Professional health organizations like the American Medical Association, the Endocrine Society, major medical journals, New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, JAMA, government health agencies, NIH, CDC.
How do you evaluate information you find elsewhere?
Look at the date. Is it recent? Who wrote it? What's their expertise? Why was it written to educate or to sell something? Understand the difference between correlation in a study and actual causation. And always try to cross-reference information from multiple reliable sources.
What about support groups, online communities?
They can be fantastic for emotional support, sharing practical tips, feeling less alone, especially groups specifically for people using semaglutide.
But they aren't medical advice.
Absolutely not. They supplement but don't replace guidance from your healthcare provider. Your doctor is essential for the prescription, instructions, monitoring, and personalized advice.
Makes sense. We also wanted to bring in some insights from Dan Hollis from his book Slim by Science. He offers some interesting psychological perspectives.
Yes, his work adds a really valuable layer. For example, he points out regaining weight after semaglutide is common without proper transition planning.
Which really hits home that point about needing a long-term strategy, not just relying on the medication indefinitely without other changes.
Exactly. He also says patients often mistake hunger with emotional cravings. That highlights how important it is to understand your why for eating.
And semaglutide might help create space for that awareness.
That seems to be his point. He suggests semaglutide can enable mindfulness by removing impulsive eating triggers. It potentially quiets the biological noise so you can work on the behavioral pattern.
Like replacing old habits.
Right. He notes food rituals need to be replaced, not just removed. You need to build new, healthier routines.
And he emphasizes personal agency too, doesn't he?
Yes. Weight loss through medication still requires belief in personal agency. It empowers the individual. The drug helps, but you are still doing the work.
I like his framing of the medication giving you time.
Yeah. Semaglutide's true value is time to change, plan, and reset. It creates a window of opportunity to build those sustainable habits.
And he gets into the deeper stuff too.
He does. Healing relationships with food is more than meal planning. And most systems fail because they treat the weight, not the why behind it. It pushes for that holistic view.
That's powerful. And that last quote you pulled.
Semaglutide doesn't change who you are. It gives you a window to become who you want to be. Really motivational, I think.
It really ties it all together, the biology, the psychology, the behavior change. So let's wrap this up. What are the final key takeaways?
Okay, so semaglutide. Clearly effective for significant weight loss and improving metabolic health markers.
More so than some other GLP-1s, based on current data.
Yes, and it's not just for people with diabetes. It's approved for weight management and others too.
But big, but not a magic pill.
Absolutely not. Works best with diet and exercise. It's a gradual process needing commitment.
And we still need more long-term data. But what we have now is promising.
Very promising. It's a significant tool.
Definitely a major step forward in weight management. A powerful tool, as you said, when used responsibly and as part of that bigger plan.
So if this deep dive has sparked your interest, the next step is talking to your own doctor. Get personalized advice for your situation.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on that Dan Hollis idea. If semaglutide can offer time to change, plan, and reset.
How might you use that window? What new approaches to your long-term health could you start building now? What healthier identity could you start to step into?
Something to think about. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and let us know what other topics you'd like us to dive into next time.